Yo, what's up? This is the Daily Overpass. My name's Eric, I make apps. Now today, I want to talk about marketing based on need and the huge opportunities in the mobile web. Now if you run a small business, or even if you work for a big business, you know that we're constantly being sold to, right? We get tons of spam, tons of cold emails, tons of cold calls, right? I get 2 or 3 cold calls a day. Either somebody trying to sell me, their app services, or recruiters, or whatever. It just seems like they're constantly calling me, right? And I don't mind it so much because I know that's how business is done. In fact, I kind of chastise myself for not doing more of it myself. I need to do more outreach and stuff like that. But most of the times when people are marketing to me, they're always trying to offer me something I don't think that I need. For example, like the big one at the moment, and I know some of you guys have said you hate my logo and everything like that. And you know what? To me, I don't think I have a logo problem, right? I've never thought that clients have said, oh, I want to work with them, but I don't like the logo. That's just, for me, it's not a problem, right? It would be kind of, it might be nice to have a new logo, but, nice is not important enough to shell out the money to do it, in my opinion. Even if somebody did it for free, we've got all the apps out there, we've got all the marketing materials, we've got all that kind of stuff. We're working on building the brand, and for me, I'm not interested. The same with app developers. A lot of app development companies contact me and say, like the same email I get all the time. They list 100 technologies, say we're experts in PHP, SharePoint, Salesforce, mobility apps, Android, iPhone. They'll name everything, and they'll just say they're experts in all of those things, right? And I just say I'm not interested, right? Even though they say, oh, but we can save you a lot of money, and it's like, well, I'm not interested in that either, because I don't know the value that I get from it. And the other thing is web design. Always getting offered new web design services. And like I said, I don't think I have a need for that kind of stuff. In terms of priorities, it's always really low on priorities. And even if I wanted it a little bit, it's not important enough for me to pay. At least that's my mentality going into it when I read these kind of things. Now, there was a really good book a few years ago called The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holme, right? And he did a lot of seminars with Tony Robbins and stuff in the early part of the decade. I think he's passed away now from cancer or something, but if you do a search on him on YouTube, you'll find a lot of really good videos on education-based marketing. So and what education-based marketing and finding a core story is all about is coming up with a compelling reason for people to take you seriously and your service. So instead of just saying, hey, buy my stuff, you give them some quality information, like some information about the industry, some things that actually help them, and if they want to hire you, they can. For example, let's say, or the other side of that, kind of the same thing, is you could give them information about why they need your product as opposed to why it would be really great to have it. For example, if I was going to sell you some educational software, I could talk about how the colorful designs, how much the kids would like it, how great it would look on your system, all that kind of stuff, and benefit. Or I could talk about the rise in illiteracy, or childhood learning problems, the lack of attention, growth in children. You can find statistics on all these kind of things, right? And as you sell them on the need as opposed to on the benefit, right? It's really interesting stuff. So I've been looking at some statistics today on websites and mobile websites versus desktop websites, and I found some really cool stuff, and I wanted to share it with you, right? Because I've been thinking a lot about this lately, right? So this one goes out to all you web developers out there. Oh yeah. I know that was the most unnatural thing I've ever done, right? But I've been practicing it all morning. I wanted it to look really cool. Web developers, right? So have a look at my screen over here. Now this is my website. This is the Overpass website. So I say my website. I'm not the only one who works on it. But we've been working on it we've had this thing up for years. We redesign every so often. We'll add little bits and pieces to it, all that kind of stuff. It's got, it looks simple, but we have like 800 pages on it, maybe 1,000 pages on it when you include all the blog content, all the apps, all the different permeations of it. It's just a WordPress site. We're constantly working on it and putting new content into it. So, I'm pretty proud of it. But every time I look at it like this. I look at it in desktop view, right? And You know, but I also, you know, when we set it up, and we were also thinking a lot about mobile, or we're thinking a bit about mobile. So we did responsive design too. So we got a theme that had a responsive template, but it looked really bad. I mean, it was okay, but you know, every time we'd add new content, we never checked it in mobile. And this is something we've been doing a lot lately. Just to give you an idea, here it is in the browser on Nexus 6P mode. So we changed the banner, put in a side menu as opposed to, like, for some reason, responsive design in like the 2013 age, it would take the menu and put it in like a drop-down box, which never really made sense. So we kind of moved it into this and everything, just bought a few different components to try to make it a little bit better. And one of the reasons is looking at the statistics, like 74% of all of our traffic comes from mobile. And I knew we had a high percentage before, and that's because we're app developers. So most people who come to our website come from our app pages, or you know, they find out about us through the apps, and then they come that way, right? Despite the fact that I want desktop viewers to see us, and I think in terms of this is the experience they're gonna have, that's not the way they have. So we've been focusing a lot on that lately. But a lot of companies out there aren't. And this is where I start to think that for web designers, for people out there on the web, or you're looking to do web design, there's a lot of opportunity out there. So I've been looking at this website here called Stat Counter. And I don't know if you've ever seen it. It shows browser statistics from like 2.5 million websites. You know, it's got, it compiles all this data and puts them together. So, you know, it's on the front page here. It has a nice little chart of the browser differences, right? But what I found was really interesting was going through, desktop versus mobile versus tablet, right? They have all these reports there over the years. So here's the entire year of 2009, right? You can see 99% of all web traffic was desktop back then, right? So you're talking about just hardly anybody searched on the web. You never have to think about it. And this is less than 10 years ago, obviously. Right, and I'm not going to show you every year, but I'm going to jump ahead here to 2013, where we start seeing, this is when I set up the Overpass website, was 2013. Gosh, that's a long time ago. So, you can see here towards the end of the year, we still had just 22% using that. Let's just go ahead a few more years through 2014. You can see it start to rise, desktop start to fall, tablet kind of staying the same. You see 2015, you can see, still, you could safely ignore mobile. If you ignored mobile, it's not that big a deal. But let's look at 2016. 2016, back in between October and November, that's when we start to see them switch. That's when we start to see mobile take over. And this is on a global basis, right? So, and then here we can see over the last 12 months, we can see it just getting bigger and bigger, and we're now at the moment we have more web traffic, more mobile traffic than we do desktop traffic. And then not so much tablet traffic. We're just seeing, tablet traffic, we're still, 4.78, right? Which is, we got 53% on mobile, which is, all of a sudden, something that was a want, something that was like, hey, do you know that website, mobile users aren't going to see your website in the right way? All this kind of stuff, the kind of stuff that a business owner could safely ignore. This is something, going back to the core story and the compelling arguments, this is something that if you're a web designer or in that sphere, this is something that you could use to your advantage in terms of a marketing perspective. All of a sudden, all those companies, even the small companies out there who set up their website years ago, but they haven't made it responsive, or they might have something even before mobile that's just been out there, all of a sudden, the majority of traffic is not going to be able to see their website in the right way, right? So, it's different in different areas. In Asia, in Asia it's actually 65%. So for those of you in Asia, and in Africa it's 59%. So what does this mean? This means that rather than telling somebody, like they always tell me, it's like, hey, we can redesign your website, it's going to look really cool, it's going to look great, it's going to look professional, or they'll say something like, are you losing business because your website is bad? Or they'll say your logo looks old, it looks dated, and they're using fluffy terms that I don't see as a need. A more compelling marketing strategy is to be able to say, more people visit your site on a mobile website than view it on desktop, right? And your website looks like this, and you can include a bit of marketing material which shows their website in some screenshots of their website in iPhone, in Android, in a few different views, and say this is what it looks like, because most business owners aren't going to look at their website in mobile, because I don't, they just don't, or they think it's good enough. You know, you could show. So if you're going to create marketing material and market to companies, you could say, this is what your website looks like in iPhone. This is what it looks like, on an Android device. This is how long it takes to load. This is the average response time for other mobile websites. We can help you. It's a much more compelling argument than just saying, hey, we can give you something and it will be really cool. Now there's other tools out there, so this is what I've been looking at. I'm just sharing this with you. I don't know if we're going to do anything with it, probably not. But there's lots of different, there's a Phantom JS components out there. There's Node.js components out there where you could programmatically go out there and start taking screenshots of different web pages and start producing some of these materials. If you're going to do like a mass marketing campaign and reaching out to companies, if you're going to do them into companies in your area or globally, so probably a lot of companies have thought about this already in the last couple of years, and they've probably been preparing for it. But you also have really small companies who haven't thought of it at all because they don't want to invest the budget in it. But now things are starting to change, because that chart is just going to keep getting worse. If you were to show them that chart and say, this is where it starts to change, and in a few years, based on this trajectory, we're going to see this, right? We're going to see most traffic, or we're going to see like 70% of mobile traffic. So it's a much more compelling argument coming from a need point of view. And this is also the same with apps. A lot of times when we're marketing to clients, we're thinking a lot of, hey, this will look really cool, you should have this because it would be awesome, right? But we think about the need. Like I said, I don't need a new logo, but I might need a new website. I respond to emails that are urgent and that I need to address right away. This is more urgent if you say there's an urgency in the situation where you invested all this money in a website. You have a website, you've been working on your web presence, but most people don't see it the way you intend them to see it. So anyway, I just thought I'd put that out there. It's kind of exciting to look at this. Anyway, have a look at this stat counter website too. I'll include that in the notes. And anyway, that's it for today. We are living in a mobile world, and I am the mobile girl. No, that's not right. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.